What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we have a very special guest, and I'm very excited for this one because, as you guys know, I've been in the social media Instagram game for quite a while now, and what I've seen with this guy and this individual has done has been really amazing. What he's done specifically with the IG Reels game, and right now I'll tell you he's helping entrepreneurs and creators create organic Instagram growth constantly. 250K followers in 6 months. That's unbelievable. And he's a seven-figure business owner at 24. Not many people can do that. So, guys, we're excited to pick his brain, learn, sit back, and really ask good questions. Because right now, I know we got the notepads out, and we're going to start jotting down. Guys, help us welcome the one and only Brock Johnson. What's up, brother?
What's up, guys? Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Hell yeah, man.
Man.
It's I was telling Brian, I was like, man, I can't wait to get Brock on here, seeing all the cool stuff you're doing, especially in the world that we live in of Instagram and social media, and how many changes there's been, and especially IG Reels being such a hot thing, and you being somebody who really separates yourself and really focuses a lot on the IG Reels. You know, I guess for my first question is, you know, what first got you into the social media game, specifically Instagram, and then what made you specifically focus on IG Reels?
Yeah, totally. So let's backtrack all the way. I started this business when I was about 19 years old, and this is going to sound funny to say, but I started my business as teaching moms how to keep their kids safe on Snapchat. So totally different platform, totally different group of people. But I think the lesson to learn there is that you got to just get started, right? The only way I was able to grow into the business I have today is I got started with something totally different back like 7 years ago now, 7 years ago now. So that was my start. Soon after that, it became Snapchat for business. That was the focus of my business, was teaching other business owners how to use Snapchat. And soon after that, Instagram came out with Instagram stories and very much monopolized Snapchat, right? Snapchat faded away. A lot of influencers and celebrities left Snapchat, and a lot of people stopped using Snapchat as regularly as they were in like 2016, 2017. So I was aware of the trends, and I was not too stubborn to recognize, hey, I might have built a business around Snapchat, but Snapchat might not be around in the same way a few years from now. So I pivoted to Instagram, and I started, this was probably 5 years ago now, focusing solely on Instagram, teaching entrepreneurs, teaching business owners how to organically grow their following on Instagram. And I, of course, was doing the same. I was organically growing my business on Instagram. And then for the next 5 years, the growth was slow, but it was constant. And so I grew from somewhere around, starting at 0 followers, of course, to somewhere around 50,000 followers at about this time last year. So by the beginning of 2021, I was around 50 or 60,000 followers. And I was aware of Reels, right? We were all aware of Reels, and I was preaching how powerful they were and how effective they were. And I was also preaching things about consistency and posting things every single day. And I just thought, what if I challenged myself to do that? What if I challenged myself to post one reel a day for 30 days and just test and see what it would do? This wasn't a marketing stunt. This wasn't a challenge. I wasn't, collecting emails or getting anyone else involved. I was just challenging myself. And at the end of 30 days, I had like 45,000 new followers. I had almost doubled my following in those 30 days. Now, here we are 322 days later at the time of recording this, and I'm still posting one a day. I've missed, I think, 2 days in the last entire year of posting Reels every single day. And the growth has been extremely consistent. It's been at least 1,000 new followers every single day for the last 300 days. It's crazy to see how consistent it is. It's not just like one viral video and a couple thousand new followers came and then that was it. It's been really, really consistent. And now here we are almost a year later, and it's the same exact strategy that's still working.
Brock, you have the formula, man, and I want you to tell us what it is. Okay, so the Reels is the game that you're in, and this is the content that you're creating. What are the key elements, or I guess like the secret sauce that you use, that you teach people how to build and create great Reels?
Totally. This isn't a sexy answer. This isn't a magic formula. This isn't, the Krabby Patty formula. This is just consistency. In all honesty, it's consistency that leads to growth. You have to take 1,000 bad shots in order to finally take a good shot. right? It's just like practice. You can't be great at something overnight. The reason why I've had dozens of viral reels is because I've also had hundreds of reels that flopped. The reason why I have 20 reels that are great that I would pitch to marketers as a Super Bowl ad. The reason I'm able to have that is because I also have 300 reels that are just average, that are just okay, that are quote unquote good enough. And I think that's the piece of advice that I want to give to anyone listening is stop looking for this magic formula. Stop looking for the secret sauce, the insider tips, the special hacks, and just start posting. Because as you start posting, you're going to learn what works. You're going to learn what your audience wants. You're going to learn what works for you. And eventually you're going to strike it rich. Eventually you're going to find that secret sauce for yourself. Eventually you're going to hit the nail right on the head, proverbially, and find out like what really is effective for you and your reels. But the only way to get to that stage is to post a lot. And then if we can backtrack for a second and just talk about social media in general and algorithms in general, the more you post, the more you grow. There have been countless studies that have proven this because of the way the algorithms work. And this is true on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, on YouTube. It's consistency, but it's not just, hey, I'm going to post once a week or I'm going to post a few times a month. It's posting every single day, maybe even multiple times per day, because every single post is an opportunity to grow, to serve, and just to connect with a wider audience. So I wish I had some sexy magic formula and we can talk more about how I make my reels. But the honest truth is it's just consistency.
I love that answer because I think at the end of the day, it goes back to anything, right? You start a business, you play a sport, you're trying to get good at something. The only way to get good is consistency in practicing and doing it over and over again as you start figuring out, okay, if I move this way, I'm actually going to do better. If I actually do this here, it's going to actually perform better. Let me do that next time. And that's when you start, figuring out, okay, what's working, what's not working. And of course, there's always things out there that can help you. And I'm not discounting that. And that's why there's individuals like yourself coaching people and helping people, because there's always frameworks to help guide people. But at the end of the day, you can have a framework, but if you're not consistent and you're not also experimenting yourself to see what your audience wants, you're not going to know then what's hitting and what's not hitting. And I love that you brought that up. I love that you brought that up. So I want to dive into, because you had experience already with social media with the Snapchat and you, which I thought that was really interesting. We were saying about the mom protecting the kids, having the moms be able to protect their kids. So you have some kind of level of awareness moving forward as you're growing through the social media space. You're coming into IG. You already have experience. When you tested those, that period, you said I tested 30 reels. Did you already know that your focus niche was going to be, I'm going to go at it at what I'm doing now as a coach? Or were you just trying to test out different types of reels content? And if so, what were those?
Yeah. So I had already established that this was my niche. I'd already established that my focus was helping other business owners grow on Instagram. And I had established that over the 4 or 5 years leading up to my first ever Reels challenge. When I first got started on Instagram and transitioned over from Snapchat, I was a little all over the place. I was posting about entrepreneurship in general. I was posting about storytelling and tips and strategies for becoming a better storyteller. I talk about speaking on stages. At the time, I was a college football player, so a lot of that was mixed in, like pictures and videos of myself playing. So it was much more mixed. And I think it's no secret why I wasn't growing as much as I am now, or even as much as I was in 2021 or in 2020, when I really did have that clear niche and focus. When I was a little bit more spread out, the growth was a lot slower. I was still growing, but the growth was a lot slower. The more niched I got, the more focused I got, the more I was able to grow.
What reel made you realize that?
I don't know if it was necessarily a reel that made me realize that. I think I actually discovered that before reels even came to play. I will say, I don't think I've posted a reel that isn't about my niche. And that's a tip that I can give to anyone listening is, once you have your niche identified, and basically what I mean when I say niche is just like a focus, like who are you talking to? What are you talking about? What's the topic or the focus for your account? Once you have that identified, I think that all of your reels should be about that topic. Now, like you just asked, if you haven't identified that niche yet, by all means, feel free to experiment, try out different things, test out different niches to find what strikes a chord with your audience and also what really lights you up as a creator. But once you have that niche, you should stick to it. And the reason I say that is because one of two things can happen if you post a reel or a TikTok for that matter that isn't related to your niche. The first option is people don't engage with it, right? People follow me on Instagram for Instagram marketing tips. Imagine if I posted a rock climbing video and I was like, here's some tips for rock climbing. No one would engage with it. Everyone's like, what the heck? That's not what I signed up for. It's like going to a sushi restaurant and getting tacos. Like, it's not what you signed up for. The other option is if I post something that's not related to my niche and it blows up, right? It does really well. It reaches a ton of new people. I get thousands of followers for that rock climbing video. But now those followers are like, wait, I followed Brock for rock climbing and I'm getting nothing but Instagram tips. This isn't what I signed up for. Now they're not going to be engaged. They're not going to keep following me. They're going to unfollow and they're never going to become customers. And so that's why I say that all of your reels should be related to your niche.
So regarding niche, so let's say you are in the real estate, and from what you're saying is consistency and everyday posting is the key to success, and just posting every day. How do you come up with ideas for marketing? Because you'll have people, I'm sure, they'll question you or challenge you and say, hey, there's real estate, there's not that much sexy about it that can talk about it every single day. How does somebody, or how do you, or what do you recommend somebody to do so they have content every day coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. Real estate is not a niche. Real estate is an industry. If you are a real estate agent, you still need to do some work and identify who is my specific clientele. What are they looking for? Am I focused more on selling? Am I focused more on connecting buyers into potential listings? What area, like you guys are in Miami, what specific area of Miami? Is there a specific neighborhood? What about a specific street in Miami, a specific type of home? And then also even take that a step further. Am I focused on educating people in the real estate space? Like, am I giving tips for home buying and what to look for and how to look through Zillow and all that stuff, how to pick the right real estate agent? Or am I strictly sharing listings? Am I strictly, posting about the homes that are for sale and posting about the things that I've sold? But there's some really creative ways that you can use even one house, for example, right? And do a handful of reels at one house and create a handful of text posts from that one house. And maybe you're going to go live at that one house and you're going to post stories for a few days at that one house. That's just one single listing, and it's provided you with a week or even 2 weeks worth of content.
Oh, that's amazing. You see, that's very specific. So real estate, then going into specifics of, if you're a real estate agent, dive into that. And then there's so many different avenues to go into. So you're not putting yourself in a box. Now,
I would even say real quick, even the bigger play here too is that I don't think most people even realize that you can make so much content off that one location that he said. You can repurpose and remake so much stuff that you have no excuse to have content. Because I think that's the other thing. I think we sometimes get too much in our heads and we're like, okay, we did this here. Okay, now what else do we do next? And wait, you can capitalize on that one thing that you're doing or where you're at and actually turn it into multiple. I like that you said that, because I think a lot of times we overthink it and we think that we don't have enough opportunities to create content.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And does equipment matter? Because you'll have somebody asking you, hey, but I don't have the right equipment to film these reels. I don't have an editor. What do you say to people like that?
Yeah, what I say is that you probably are going to need a ring light, a professional editor. You're going to need a microphone. You're going to need a sound check guy. No. You have a smartphone. That's all you need. You need nothing more than the smartphone. Like, you're listening to this podcast right now, probably via your smartphone. That's plenty. You don't need any more than that. You don't need a special camera. In fact, a lot of times, if you use a special camera, it's too high of quality and it makes it look terrible when you actually put it onto Instagram. Focus on your phone. That's all you need. Your phone. You don't need a ring light. You don't need a microphone. You have this magical thing called the sun. That's plenty of lighting. Use that. Use your phone. You don't need anything else.
You just need Brock. That's it.
And this podcast.
A little Brock in your life and sweat it out.
Man, Brock, it's one of those things where it goes back to the overthinking, right? Most of the times we feel like we got to have all this stuff. And I'm a huge advocate of start with what you have, because what you have is plenty. And that's one of the things 100%. I teach my clients all the time. because it's easy to get stuck in that rat race of like, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Guys, we're never ready. You got to just grab what you have and go. And I really love that we're talking about this because, you know, as you know, with the involvement of social media, if you really think about it, like it used to be heavier on high-end graphics, high-end quality. And now it's actually gone to the route of rawness, more rawness, more rawness. And I think that's, as you know, the generations that are getting older you're creating more demands for that kind of content. And you're actually seeing more content like that being used for even commercials, ads, and all that stuff. Can we dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. People want what's real, right? People want what's unpolished. They want what's authentic. Because if it's not that, it's not real life. It's fake. It's perfected. It's photoshopped. It's phony. And there's a disconnect there. So that started happening over the past few years, where there's been a huge pushback against this kind of narrative around Instagram, where everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be photoshopped. You have to use the right filters. When I look at your profile, there needs to be like a beautiful matching color grid with a checkerboard pattern and the nice aesthetic pictures. That's not real. Like, people don't want that anymore. We all went through the year 2020. We all have a super finely tuned in BS radar at this point. We're like, just give me what's real. Give me what's authentic. And that's what I can connect with. There's even, like you noted, there's some trends in expensive paid media, in commercials, where people are moving towards the less perfect. It's actually a thing in marketing now where people are filming commercials with intentional shake. They're filming videos, movies, TV shows with intentional camera shake, where it's kind of like, wait, was this shot on a phone? Like, was this handheld? Like, why is there not stable video? Like, shouldn't it be on a tripod? But they're doing that because subconsciously, when we're all watching this little camera shake, our brain's like, oh, this is more real. This is more authentic. This was probably filmed by someone's aunt, and it wasn't filmed by some professional director of photography. But to bring this full circle, on your social media, you really don't need to be perfect. And when you are trying to be perfect, you overthink things. Like you said a few times, like we're overthinking our social media posts and we're hyper critical of them and we're over analyzing them. When the other business owner down the street just pressed post. So you're now falling behind because you're sitting here overthinking, trying to create the perfect post. You got to just settle for good enough. And you're capable of good enough. You guys are capable of good enough. I'm capable of good enough. Everyone listening is capable of good enough. And that's all you need for social media.
So Brock, when is it, would you say then, or maybe you would say, keep going down that path of where you see things going of more raw. But what would you say is it adequate to use, let's say, a higher profile image, higher profile video, something really well done? That way people know of like, okay, this makes sense, but you want to stick to this when it's here. When do you use that content? When do you use the other content?
Yeah, I think every audience is different. I think every creator is different, right? There are some creators, I think of some on TikTok who, if they posted like a professional, highly edited, high quality video, it would be a huge disconnect for their audience. While I know some other people who are, let's say, like graphic designers, or maybe they're video editors themselves, if they posted a really unpolished, raw piece of content, it might not connect as well because their audience doesn't expect that. Their audience doesn't know them for that. And then also, I think that every different social media platform has its own dress code. And what I mean by that is, if you're to show up at like a burger restaurant, like a fast food restaurant, and you're wearing a tuxedo, it's a little awkward. But if you show up on the red carpet and you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops, like that's also a little awkward. You have to match the dress code of the platform you're on. So over on YouTube, people expect something that's a little bit more polished. When listening to a podcast, people expect something that has a little bit more editing, right? Like they want the bad answer cut out. They want the ums and the ers and the ahs. Like if I was to pause right now and be like, wait, guys, what was the question? They would want that edited out. But on an Instagram story, on a TikTok video, on an Instagram reel, people want that raw, that imperfect, that realness a little bit more. So know your audience, know the dress code of the platform you're on, and also just know what people expect from you as an individual creator.
Love that.
I love it. And you're talking about people. So I want to touch on this because now you sparked a question. So with people who want to edit, remove the hums and all that stuff, most of the time they have fear of what people are thinking of them. And what do you say to those people who want to get into this game, who do want to post, who really want to scale their business, but they're scared to take that first step into posting content and even speaking?
Yeah. No one cares about you that much. I promise. I promise. We are all way too focused on ourselves. We're all sitting in our bubble thinking, is everyone going to judge me for this? Is everyone going to critique me for this? When 90% of the mistakes you make, people won't even notice. I post things all the time where I'm like, oh, there's a typo right there. There's a mistake in this video. Oh, I could have done that better. I wish I changed that text. People don't realize it. People don't care. They're focused on themselves. Everyone is so busy focused on themselves and the mistakes they're making. They don't notice the mistakes you're making. Also, from what I've found, in at least the communities that I've built and been a part of on social media, when I post, it's 99% positive comments. Literally the other day, I tried to make a reel that involved like a hate comment. I was looking for a hate comment so that I could make a reel kind of like responding to it. Guys, I couldn't find one. I literally scrolled through like 3 months worth of my content and could not find a hate comment. And that's not to say that, there aren't haters out there. That's not to say that the internet isn't full of trolls. But also, what kind of energy are you putting out there? Like what kind of community are you building? What kind of people are you surrounding yourself with? Because a lot of what I'm seeing on social media is actually really, really positive and really, really encouraging.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to, I would say, are you speaking and identifying with the exact audience you're trying to connect with? Because if not, you're gonna have confused individuals. And then you're not going to know the direction of where you're taking things. You're not going to know the direction of where you're trying to take things. And then it leaves a total confusion bubble where it can spark up some of this stuff. Now, I want to dive into myths. Because, I know there's a lot of myths around social media that this doesn't work. And if you do this, this is going to happen. On the IG Reel specifically, we'll keep it narrow on your niche. What are the myths out there that you want to crush right now on IG Reels and let everybody know?
Yeah, some of the biggest myths I'd say, first of all, is that around views and how do you get more views? And, oh, Instagram's out to get me, or, oh, I'm shadow banned. You're most likely not shadow banned. Instagram most likely doesn't have a personal vendetta against you. Views come from engagement. So if you want more views on your videos, you have to get more engagement. And we could spend an entire 30-minute segment just talking about how to get more engagement. We can talk about calls to action and all that stuff. Basically, views come from engagement. And spoiler alert, the same is true for your non-reels. So if you post just a normal picture on Instagram, if you want it to reach more people, well, then you have to get more engagement first. You have to get the existing people to actually engage. How do you get more people to show up to your party? You get the people at the party to have a great time and they invite their friends, and then more people show up to the party. So you have to get that engagement first. Another thing, really specifically talking about reels, is around like views and views coming from a story. So if I was to post a reel and share it to my story, anyone who views that story, that view would also count on the reel. So that's a huge reason, value bomb right there for anyone listening. Whenever you post a reel, share it to your story, because those views will count on the reel. Whether someone clicks on it or not, you get all of those additional views on the video. And that's a huge way to increase your views and your engagement on your reels.
So when you're creating a reel, does hashtags still matter? What hashtags you use?
Yeah. Speaking of myths, the power and importance of hashtags is a huge myth. And there's a lot of quote unquote experts out there who are telling you need to use this many, you need to use this list, and you need to find this exact group. When, to be totally honest, hashtags aren't as effective as they once were. They're not really all that effective for most people at all anymore. Now, some people can have great success with hashtags. And I'm not telling you to abandon them or to not use them. I'm just recommending no longer stressing over them. In 2016, it would have been worth your time to spend an hour every single week finding a great list of hashtags, researching them, getting the best list ready for your post. But now it's just not the same reward. You're not going to get the same benefits, even from using a great list of hashtags. And there's a lot of different reasons for that, but basically they're just not as effective as they once were. So I recommend not stressing out over them and instead spending that time focusing on creating more content, creating better content, connecting more with your audience, and things like that.
Love that. So Brock, hit us right now, because I know you can dive into a whole nother segment of just engagement. That could be a whole nother podcast. So hit us with your top 5 things that you would say your top 5 priority of, like, this is going to help you guys immediately increase your engagement with your IG Reels content, and especially depending on what industry you're in and the niche you're serving.
Yeah. So the first thing is a call to action. All videos, all posts need a call to action. And a call to action is basically telling people what you want them to do. So like if you're listening to this podcast right now, hit the download button. You wouldn't have thought about hitting the download button if we didn't just say, hit the download button. That's call to action. So every post should have a call to action. The more clear, direct, and explicit you can make it, the better. Another tip for increasing engagement is to just increase the overall brightness of the video. When your video is dark or it's grainy or it's filmed, in a closet on a dimly lit day and it's cloudy, people have a hard time seeing that. Brighter content can get up to 60% more engagement. So just standing near a window or stepping outside is a great way to increase your engagement. Number 3, stay engaged yourself. It's called social media, right? The first word there is social. So it's great that you're putting out a lot of media, but you still need to be social. You still need to interact with your followers. Ask them follow-up questions, start conversations, and build real community and real lifers from your followers. So they're not just, random people who happen to follow some page, but they actually feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves.
Can I pause you there for a sec, Brock? If that's okay?
Yeah.
About how much time should people be spending engaging with other people?
People ask this question, and they might have been thinking this question already, because they want to know really what's the bare minimum, right? People don't want they want to know what's the minimum I have to do. And instead, I think that the focus should be on just do as much as you can.
Okay.
I think that if you want a bare minimum number, 10 to 15 minutes after posting, that's an important time frame. But it's not like you hit 15 minutes, then suddenly it doesn't matter. The more time you can spend engaging, the better. I think it's absolutely important. If people want to divide up their time, a great way to think about it is however much time you spend on Instagram, spend a third of that time creating content and spend 2/3 of that time engaging with other creators. So that shows you right there how important engaging with others is. Spend 2/3 of your time on Instagram engaging with other creators. Yeah.
Love that.
Awesome. Yeah. And then continuing with, I think I'm on number 4 now.
Yes.
For tips for engagement. This one, definitely just always share your posts to your story, but don't cover it up. So people might not know what I'm talking about, but basically you make a post, you share it to your story, but then you put some big GIF sticker on it and no one can see what it says, or it says, new post, and it completely covers your post. And it's forcing your people to click on it, to see it. They don't actually get to see it on the story. Don't do that. Just share your post to your story, create some curiosity for people to actually click on it. But sharing it to your story is a great way to increase engagement. And then finally, post at the right time. Now, there is no one universal right time. There is no one size fits all answer to this. The true answer to finding your best time is to test posting at different times. So sometimes you post in the morning, sometimes you post in the afternoon, sometimes you post in the evening. Just test posting at different times of day and keep track of which ones perform best. And eventually you'll find like, hey, my audience is usually really engaged at 7:15 a.m. Like for whatever reason at that time, my people always engage with my posts. So then you can stick to that time and continue to post at that quote unquote best time.
So Brock, is it, because I know, let's say a 7:15, some people might be like, damn, Brock, but that's too early. And there's no tools out there right now that let you preset your IG Reels posts, right? Unless you know one that I don't know.
No.
So you got to get your ass up and you got to post it.
Yeah, here's honest truth. I found that my audience is most engaged when I post at like 6 a.m., which sucks. But luckily I'm up at that time usually every day. But on the weekends or something, if I sleep in and I'm not up till 8, I'm like, oh, shoot, I missed that window, that perfect posting time. I'll still post. But yeah, I got to wake up early to get that
Brock's waiting for one of those calendars or one of these posting schedulers to finally allow Reels to get posted on there.
Totally.
So Brock, all right. Now I'm thinking now you dropped all this value, this information, and my reels, and I'm talking about hypothetical. Let's say somebody's just out there listening to this and they're like, man, you know what? I like what Brock said. I like what you guys are talking about. I should really start taking reels to the next level. But the content I have is pictures of my family, my kids, and I want to start talking about, you know, my business. I'm a real estate agent. How should they approach, I guess we would call this a rebrand of what they currently have. How should they approach this? Or if they're another professional, different industry, and they're hopping into another industry?
Totally. So you really have two choices. You can redirect the ship, turn it around, and that being the current Instagram you have, you can try to keep rolling with the 300 family members you have following you and try to just pivot that into a new business, or, you know, whatever business you're in, pivot that into a new business. Or the scarier option for most people is just starting over, starting from zero. And that's scary, right? Because you lose everything that you think that you build, all these posts and these followers that you have. But a lot of times you're actually ahead when you're starting at zero. And that's because, here's the thing. If I have 300 people following me and they're family members, and I start posting about my business, they might not engage with it. They're like, wait, I wanted pictures of your kid. I don't want these like business tips. So now, sure, you have 300 followers, but you have 300 disengaged followers, and now it's going to be really tough to grow. Compare that to starting over, and now you're at zero. Well, now at least you have the opportunity to start from the ground rather than starting from within a hole. And the same is true, right? If you're changing niches, if I have a niche of people who follow me for yoga, and I'm going to start giving advice about the stock market, well, those people who are following me for yoga tips, they don't want the stock advice necessarily. So I might be in the hole a little bit. So for a lot of people, I know it's scarier to start over, but it might be beneficial to do so.
Great advice right there. And let's say they don't. Let's say they stick to that one page that they have, and that's their option. Is it better for them to delete their old content or archive it?
I think it's better to archive it. It really doesn't make a significant difference deleting it or archiving it, because it's older content, because it's not something you've recently posted. But what I will say is, don't ever delete followers. That's a big no-no. Like going through your following list and blocking people, or like, hey, this person followed me for yoga, but now I'm doing stock tips, I'm going to block this person. Don't do that. Sure, it might make a 0.0001% difference in terms of your engagement rate, but overall it's going to really negatively affect your account, because the algorithm just sees that suddenly you're losing tens, if not hundreds of followers. And that's a big no-no. So don't waste your time removing, even if they're bots, right? Even if they're fake followers or they're robots, don't waste your time blocking them.
Just keep making better content. That's it, and being consistent.
Exactly.
Love that.
Exactly.
So now I have a question here that I've been wanting to ask somebody, specifically somebody like you. I've always heard this for a while. Obviously, it could be a myth. Maybe it could be true. I don't know. I've heard that if you have a very old account, it's not going to perform as high as a new account that you open. An account that was opened back in 2012, 2011 versus an account from today. Is that true or not true?
I think it has to do more with the content you're posting. And I think that it's not necessarily the age of the account. It's more, hey, if I've had an account since 2012 and I have, let's say, for example, 100 followers, well, maybe 20 of those people don't even use Instagram anymore, right? They have a different account, or they don't use Instagram anymore. And then maybe 30 or 40 of those people are family members. And then 15 to 20 of those people are people who followed me, but they're just not active, or they don't really want to see my stuff, but they're being polite and they don't want to unfollow me. So I think that's more the issue rather than necessarily the age of the account. But oftentimes you will find that the older the account is, the more likely it is to look like that.
Love that.
And is it important to have a business account? So if you still have a personal account and you have transitioned it to business, does that play into effect the algorithm, or... Yeah, pretty much that.
Same as a creator. Maybe you can tell us the benefits.
Yeah. So from an algorithm perspective, not necessarily. There's not really a noticeable difference that we found, or a significant difference, I should say, statistically speaking, between a public account, a business account or a creator account. Of course, if you have a private account, that's like trying to be a street vendor on a cul-de-sac. There's just not going to be any traffic there. That's not going to work. So definitely got to be public in the least. But then there's the two professional kind of accounts, right? There's business and creator. Those are both considered professional accounts. There's not really a big difference between the two. There used to be a bigger difference, but they've basically blended and blurred those lines. So there's not really a difference. I recommend having a creator account because you still get all of the features and you still get all of the stats and insights, but you get the full music library. Some people have found that when they switch to business, they lose access to some of those songs or some of those trending audios. But for some people, there are benefits to have the business account that maybe you don't need you don't want the music, right? And there's certain things that might make you want the business account. But between business and creator, those are definitely the top two, and it's splitting hairs, the differences.
Makes sense. And with that being said, you know, on some of the new stuff that's been coming out, you know, you hear the head of IG, you know, rolling all these new features. What have been some of your new favorite features coming out? And I think some of them are only specific for creators as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So there are some things that are only offered to creators. Absolutely. And definitely what I will say is that creator accounts seem to get new features first.
Yep.
So new features are always coming out on Instagram. They are always testing like 17 different new things. But when they do release them and they do roll them out, not everyone gets them at once. I'm sure there's at least one person listening who still doesn't even have Reels on their account, which is mind blowing, right? True. Like they came out a year and a half ago. Why do some people still not have Reels? And basically, we don't need to get deep into it, but there's a million different phones out there, right? And there's a million different softwares being run on all these different phones. So the software engineers at Instagram basically have to make a different version of the app for every single one of these phones and every single operating system that they're on. I wish they could just like flip a switch and suddenly we'd all get Reels or whatever the feature is. But that's not how it works. But yes, creator accounts do get some of the new features first. Some of my favorite new features is one, the ability to remix any video. Which basically a remix just means you're going to put your own unique original video right next to someone else's video. So it's a great way to respond and interact with other pieces of content. And then also this one came out a few months ago, was the dissolving of IGTV. Mm-hmm. So people kind of got familiar with IGTV over the years. Those were like the longer videos on Instagram. Instagram got rid of IGTV. But what I don't mean is that they deleted all of them or they didn't, you know, take away your ability. They really just rebranded IGTV. That's the better way to think about it rather than they deleted it. They just rebranded IGTV. And they did this so that we can post longer videos, so that longer videos are kind of fresh and new, so that we can actually, as creators, get benefits from posting longer videos. And it's not kind of like IGTVs were, which were mostly crickets and pretty low engagement.
And how about the play bonus, man? What's your thoughts
absolutely.
about that?
Yeah. The Reels bonus is huge. That's another one that I love talking about, but it's really frustrating for a lot of people to hear about because not everyone has it and there's no way to unlock it. But basically what that is Instagram is literally paying people just for posting Reels. I think they made a commitment of paying out $1 billion to creators just for posting Reels. And someone can fact check me on that. I might have missed that number, but they committed a lot of money. And I've seen creators getting paid up to $35,000 a month just for posting Reels. And it's not like you have to go viral and get millions and millions of views. Sometimes just a couple hundred views can make you a couple $100. And for a lot of people, that's going to make a significant difference.
Mm-hmm. Do you have access to it?
I do have access to bonuses. Yeah.
There we go.
And what's the requirement to get into that?
There is no requirement. The only requirement is having a professional account, so a creator account or a business account. But besides that, that's it. There's no like number of followers. You don't need to have monetization turned on. I think pretty much all you have to do is wait and keep your fingers crossed and pray and hope that you get access to the feature.
Dude, I'm telling you, I had this whole issue, not for Reels, but I had one time my FaceTime feature wouldn't pop up for I remember it popped up, it disappeared for like a year, and I literally got it back like 3 months ago.
It's Instagram with their glitches and the bugs and the features. It's a lot. Absolutely.
So on the IG Reels and TikTok side of things, because I now want to bring that up. What would you say are the pros and the cons versus the two? And then I've always heard, maybe this is another myth, you should never put a TikTok video onto an IG Reel because it's promoting TikTok and they're gonna drop the engagement.
Yeah, that is true only if there's a TikTok logo on the video. You can create all the videos you want and share them to both places. You can create a TikTok, share it, and then post on Instagram. Just make sure there isn't a TikTok logo. Both of these platforms are stingy and they don't like their competitors. Instagram doesn't like TikTok. TikTok doesn't like Instagram. So just make sure there's no logos on the video. But if there isn't, then by all means, heck yes, take your reels and share them on TikTok and vice versa, because you might as well kill two birds with one stone. Definitely share on both platforms. But comparing the two platforms, they are very similar at face value. But when you actually get into studying their algorithms, the way they work is quite different. And it's really, really interesting to study. From my opinion, from what I've found, the ability to build a business and create customers and create really loyal fans, you can do that a little bit more effectively on Instagram. And I think that's because of things like Instagram stories, right? You can get to know someone a little bit better. You can really have a lot more conversations via Instagram DM. You get way more DMs on Instagram than you do on TikTok. TikTok is a really powerful platform though, and it's not something to be dismissed. And the ability to go viral on TikTok is really huge. I mean, it's really huge on Instagram as well. But yeah, they're both really powerful platforms. And if you can take one video and share it on both platforms, you might as well. You might as well buy 2 lottery tickets for the price of 1.
Double win.
Do you think that Instagram has the staying power to last another 10 to 20 years
Look at Facebook
in the game?
10 to 20 is that's a long stretch. If I was to say 5 years, yeah. When we start getting closer to 10 years, it's tough to say, really, right? Because like we've never seen the history of social media. Social media is at most 20 years old with Facebook. And Facebook, like it, hate it, has changed a lot over the last 20 years. So 10 to 20 years from now, will Instagram still be around? I'm hesitant to say yes, just because I think the entire internet might look vastly different in 10, 15, 20 years. But definitely for the next 5 to 10, I can really realistically see Instagram sticking around.
Brock's going to be like, everybody get your ass in the metaverse.
So what do you think about that? What's the future then of social media? Mm-hmm. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'm excited about the metaverse. I really am excited about the metaverse. I think that because of Facebook's positioning, I think that because of their power and I think their wealth, their status, and the fact that they own Instagram, I think that's why Instagram and Facebook are going to become a very central part of the metaverse and the way we consume it. I think in the next 5 years, we're going to see so much innovation and so much trial and error. I think we're going to see a lot of platforms and technologies and gadgets pop up, stick around for a few months, and then disappear. And we're going to see a lot of things come and go until we eventually find, how do we as a collective society want to move into this new metaverse? How do we want to move into internet stage 3? I think there's some really great ideas out there right now. One that I'm particularly excited about, if we want to get into specifics, is, people think metaverse, I'm going to put on this headset, I'm going to sit on my couch, and I'm going to play like a virtual reality game, right? That's what a lot of people think. One possible way that the metaverse could come to fruition that I think is really cool is kind of in a Pokemon Go style, which I've never even played Pokemon Go, but I understand that basically it exists on top of our real world, right? Like you can kind of walk around and experience the real world, but through your phone, like you are actually moving around in nature. There just happens to be a Pokemon sitting next to you on your phone. I think that might be a really, really interesting layer to the metaverse, and that's something I'm really excited about.
I like that you brought that up too, because I tell people all the time, guys, we've been trained to be plugged already for years.
Yeah.
We've been in the metaverse already, just in a 2D version, right? So if you look at your watching the TV is a form of metaverse, playing video games is a form of metaverse, your social media is a form of metaverse. You're plugged in already. Now this is just the extra step of actually giving you the experience of feeling like you're inside of it. And I like that you said that because that's another way. We've already seen it with like 3D NFTs where you could put your phone and the NFT pops up on the table and stuff like that. It can walk around. So it's very similar to like you're saying with the Pokemon Go aspect, which would be very, very interesting. So when it comes to content, we already kind of started like saying, oh, maybe this would be cool for content. This would be, in your area, your niche, your expertise. You kind of like mess around with that yet or not really?
I haven't, not from a business perspective. My audience is definitely not ready for that. It's not something that I've necessarily explored. I'm into it myself. I love learning about it. I love checking it out and consuming it. But in terms of creating content for the metaverse, not yet.
Got that.
Yeah, I think it's too early right now. I think you got to give it at least 4 to 5 years to see what it plays out and how it's being utilized. I think it's very early in this moment right now.
And absolutely. And I like being in the, they think of the graph of people who adopt content. There's the innovators. And I think those are the people, like I said earlier, who are going to spend the next 5-10 years creating the stuff. And then there's the early adapters. And the early adapters are oftentimes the people who reap the benefits of the innovators. I like staying in that early adapters phase. So I'm gonna let everyone else create the gadgets, create the content, create the way we're using the metaverse, and then I'll be an early adapter to hop on the trends once it does get set in motion.
Boom. Now, Brock, I want to bring something up here, and I'm sure you have an answer for this. Social media, metaverse, all these different things going on, it can all be addicting. And a lot of people will take it as escapism, right? For me personally, I look at it as more as a tool. Use it as a tool. What is your advice when it comes to, there's no such thing as balance, but there's a form of internal balance or close enough you can meet. So to use that just because it's easier for everybody to understand, what's your form of kind of balancing out the two of making sure that, you're using it as what it is. Yes, you have to spend time with it, but you're not taking to the point where you're using to escape your reality and it's now to cover something of pain or just to get out of your real world because you're going through something.
Absolutely. So I think a huge distinction, and I totally agree with everything you said. I think a huge distinction is intentionally consuming versus mindlessly scrolling. You can absolutely get addicted and mindlessly scroll for hours. Or you can treat social media like a tool, like you said. And the way I look at social media is exactly that. It's a tool for my business. I don't spend hours and hours scrolling through my Slack conversations with my staff and my team members. I don't spend hours and hours, rereading and just scrolling through my email inbox, reading every single email, right? I respond to the ones that need responding to, and everything else gets filtered out to spam. I think we need to treat Instagram or whatever social media you prefer the same way. When I get on Instagram, I'm not mindlessly scrolling. I might go and check like my fiance's posts or my best friend's posts, but outside of that, I'm not looking at other people's content. I'm not just scrolling through my home feed, checking out what, everyone else is doing, keeping up with the Joneses. If I ever am consuming and if I ever am scrolling, it's with intention. It's with a purpose. It's because I'm trying to find a sound to use, because I'm trying to get inspired, because I'm trying to see what's trending right now. I'm trying to see what are people writing in their captions recently, scrolling with a purpose. And I think when you approach social media that way, you're a lot more likely to use it the way a business owner would rather than just a random person who just happens to be consuming content. And then also I think having boundaries around your work and your social media is really important. And that's going to be different for everyone. I know some people do screen-free Saturdays. I know personally, I like to shut down all work around like 5 p.m. At that point, I'm like, I'm done for the day. I might have an important email that I need to send out. I might have something that pops into my head. I'll write a note and I'll do it tomorrow, but it's after 5 p.m. I'm not doing it today. And I think it's really important to respect yourself and honor those boundaries and not break the rules that you have set up for yourself.
I think Instagram is coming out with a feature where if you're on the phone for a little too long, they send you a message or something, right?
Yep. Yeah, they are. TikTok already has that with, if anyone has been on TikTok for like an hour or two, you're scrolling, suddenly a video will pop up and it'll say, whoa, you've been on TikTok for too long. Take a break. It's one of my favorite things to skip that and just keep scrolling. But all jokes aside, Instagram is coming out with a feature where they're going to, let you know, hey, you've been on for longer than you've set. You're going to be able to set how long you want to be on Instagram for. And actually, you already can. If you're on iPhone, you can set time limits for different apps, different types of apps, your screen time in general. And Instagram is coming out with a new feature called the Take a Break feature. We don't totally know the details of what that's going to look like yet, but basically it's created to promote mental health and give people an opportunity to formally take a break from Instagram. And basically let their followers know, hey, I'm going to be on break for the next couple of hours, next couple of days.
Definitely a huge component. I'm a huge advocate of respecting your schedule. I always say if you don't respect your schedule doesn't respect you. And setting those boundaries place with everything in your life, right? With your all of your work or whatever it is that you're doing. And then, whatever you do have time blocked, be intentional with that. So that way you don't have to make it up later. And then it doesn't interrupt what you're trying to do then. Now, before we wrap things up, I want, one thing you talked about was, your work and your team and stuff like that. I would really like to know for anybody out there who is a creator, a business owner, what are other components? Obviously we know what you specialize in. You're amazing. You're a master at these IG Reels in the Instagram space. But what are other things that you do on the back end that people may not know that you do that makes you who you are and why you're so successful at your business? What are other components that you would say are in your business that you do every single day?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love this question. I think being a constant learner is really, really important. And there's different avenues to learning. And that's one of the beauties of the world we live in is people can listen to a podcast like this while they work out and they can learn something. And so whether that's every single day listening to a podcast, reading blogs, reading emails from other marketers who I subscribe to their newsletters, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, or reading. I love reading. And when I say reading, I mean listening to audiobooks, but absolutely love that. Just staying in a constant space of learning helps you stay really humble, right? Because oftentimes we have to present ourselves on social media as an expert. Hey, I know this thing. I'm teaching you this thing. So it's important to also keep yourself humble and be like, yes, I'm sharing what I've learned. Yes, I might have an expertise in this field, but just because you're an expert doesn't mean you can't learn. I literally learned something new about Reels over the weekend, constantly learning, constantly testing, and constantly just trying to figure out how to stay on top of this whole marketing, business, entrepreneurship world.
Amazing, man. Brock, what can I say, brother? You've dropped some major gems today. You're a great person, man. I love the attitude and the way you approach social media and your life in general, and having this conversation with you today. Brian, you want to say anything?
No, brother, we appreciate it, man. Honestly, you dropped some value bombs here that were really good. Took some notes, and I'm excited for our audience to hear this information because it really needs to go out there, especially the myth section.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you guys having me. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity and this platform, letting me, borrow the stage that you've built and speak to your audience. It really does mean a lot to me. And so thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. And I know that my Instagram audience and family, Brian's as well, they're going to be coming over here listening to this. And who knows, they're going to probably be reaching out to you for help as well. So speaking of that, where can people find you, man? Where can people best connect with you? And where would you say, hey, come reach out and I will help you out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, over on MySpace. No, on Instagram, of course, at Brock11Johnson. That's my Instagram handle. I get a lot of DMs every single day, but I take them really seriously and I try to respond to every single one. So if you got any value out of this podcast, shoot me a DM, or even better, all three of us would love it if you screenshotted this podcast and put it on your story, say something you learned, say something you liked, say something you disliked. But just, talk about the podcast a little bit or reach out via DM. I would love to connect with anyone who listened to
love that. Or you can drop a real comment, right? On one of your
Yeah, totally. Or comment on one of the reels, that works too. Or
there we go.
A like and a save and a share, all that stuff.
Love that. So brother, the way we like to end it here, we always like to do like a quick little burn around and then we'll wrap it up with a powerful one. All right, Brian, you ready? All right, let's get this. Question number 1. Is there any other platforms right now that you're seeing as kind of like, let's start paying attention to this one because it might turn into something?
YouTube and Reels. Boom. Or YouTube and TikTok, excuse me. YouTube and TikTok.
Love it. Next one. What was the biggest fear you had when you first started posting on social media?
am I going to be seen as someone who's actually credible to speak in this space?
Love that. What are you testing right now with your IG Reels?
I'm testing posting different forms of purely educational content without any audio, trending sound, any entertainment value, just straight up education.
And what do you say to somebody who's starting out in social media and they have a lot of, I guess, anxiety and doubt, and they're fearful about just even starting, that they'll ever make it? What's your advice to that person?
Yeah. He who starts and fails will always be ahead of he who fails to start. So you have to just get started, rip the Band-Aid off, fail forward. But the bottom line, you have to just get started.
That's right. You have to just get started. And with that being said, I know that's a great piece of advice, but to everybody out there, when it comes to life, what is that number one piece of advice you can leave out to all our listeners today in one single sentence?
Detach from the result and find joy in the process.
I love that.
Detach
That was
from
great.
the result and find joy in the process. Wow, damn, Brock. You killed it, brother. I appreciate it. Much love to you, man. We can't wait to have you here one day, hopefully live in the studio. When you come visit us in Miami, we'll make sure to treat you, take care of you, brother. And guys, if you got value out of this segment, just please take away one thing, just one thing that Brock mentioned, and put that into effect. Not tomorrow, not the next day, but today. Test it out. Don't be scared. Or don't be scared what other people think. Experiment, right? Figure out what works for you and literally start capitalizing on that. So guys, if you did get value, would appreciate if you like, comment, subscribe, share, drop a review, leave a rating, because the more love you can show us, the more love we can show back. Till next time on the Sort It Out podcast.